Hello and welcome. We're about to jump into Genesis 21, and let me tell you, this chapter is just packed. It's an emotional roller coaster, really. We see God's faithfulness clashing with some of the most raw human experiences: joy, jealousy, and total desperation. It shows us how his amazing plan unfolds in these deeply personal, sometimes messy ways. So yeah, let's get into this powerful story together. Right out of the gate, the whole chapter kicks off with the sound of laughter. I mean, can you even imagine? After decades of waiting, all those years of being barren, all the doubt, the promise is finally here. Sarah, an old woman, is holding her son. And this laugh, this isn't just a chuckle. It's the sound of disbelief turning into this pure, contagious joy. It's the sound of the impossible literally becoming real right in her arms. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to walk through 5 key scenes. First, we'll see that promise fulfilled. Then we'll have to navigate a really painful family split. After that, we'll witness God's incredible care in a crisis, understand a crucial covenant made at a well, and finally, we'll land on why Abraham calls God the everlasting God. Okay, so let's start with that amazing moment of joy. This is the real turning point for Abraham and Sarah. It's the moment when everything God had been promising for so long finally takes on physical form. 100 years old. Just let that sink in. Abraham is 100 and Sarah is 90. I mean, from any human standpoint, it's not possible. But the story isn't presenting this as some weird fluke. The age is the point. It's a clear sign that this birth wasn't just a family event. It was a divine announcement. It's God saying, my power is not limited by your biology or your timetables. And, that whole theme of laughter gets literally baked right into the story forever. Isaac's name itself, Yitzhak, it means he laughs. How perfect is that? It's this permanent reminder of Sarah's first reaction, laughing in disbelief, and how God completely turned that laughter into one of pure joy. Every single time they called his name, they would remember God's faithfulness and maybe his divine sense of humor too. But, just like in our own lives, a moment of incredible joy can be followed so quickly by some really tough stuff. The laughter in Abraham's camp, well, it pretty soon gives way to a truly heartbreaking conflict that's going to split this family right down the middle. So the trouble starts at the feast they're holding for Isaac. Sarah looks over and sees Ishmael, Hagar's son, mocking her boy. Now, for Sarah, this isn't just kids being kids. She sees it as a direct threat to her son, the promised child, and that protective mama bear instinct just flares up, and she makes a demand that absolutely shatters Abraham's heart. In Sarah's mind, the lines were suddenly drawn in the sand, crystal clear. Isaac was the son of the free woman, the one and only heir to God's covenant. That meant Ishmael, the son of the bondwoman, simply could not share in that inheritance. From where she stood, there was just no other option. The heir of the promise had to be protected at all costs. And this verse, wow, it's just so real. This was not an easy call for Abraham. The scripture says the whole thing was very grievous to him. I mean, Ishmael was his firstborn son. He loved him. This just shows you the deep, painful, human cost of following God's plan. And it's a plan that God himself steps into, telling Abraham to listen to Sarah, but also promising that he will take care of Ishmael. But here's the thing. Even though Hagar and Ishmael are sent away from the camp, they are never, ever sent away from the sight of God. This next part of the story is, well, it's one of the most moving pictures of God's tender care for those who feel abandoned and desperate. So Abraham sends them out with some bread and a skin of water. But the wilderness is huge and harsh, and it doesn't take long for the inevitable to happen. The water runs out. Their lifeline is just gone. Just try to imagine the sheer desperation of this moment. Hagar, a mother, can't even carry her son anymore. She puts him under a bush just to get a little bit of distance. Why? Because she just cannot stand the agony of watching her own child die. This is rock bottom. This is human hopelessness. And so there, all alone in the quiet of the desert, the only thing she can do is weep. It's a cry of complete despair, the sound of a mother's heart absolutely breaking. But, and this is so important, that cry was not unheard. And right then, God breaks the silence. An angel speaks right to her, calls her by name. "What's wrong, Hagar?" God didn't just see her tears, he heard the boy's cry. He comforts her, he opens her eyes to a well of water that was right there the whole time. And then he does something amazing. He reaffirms his promise. He reminds her that Ishmael has a destiny too, that he will become a great nation. This is just a stunning display of God's grace right in the middle of a crisis. Okay, so now the focus of the chapter is going to shift back to Abraham. We move from this internal family drama to his external reputation and his place in the land of Canaan. Now this is a huge development. Abimelech, who's the local king, comes to Abraham, but he's not coming with threats or demands. He comes with an observation. God is with you in everything you do. I mean, Abraham's faithfulness and God's blessing on his life are so obvious that even pagan kings can see it, and they can't deny it. And you know what? They want to be on his side. And Abraham handles this moment so wisely. It all starts with recognition. Abimelech sees God's favor. That leads to a request for a peace treaty. But wait, before he agrees, Abraham makes a reproof. He actually confronts the king about a well his men had stolen. It's only after he gets justice that they make a covenant, a formal oath that establishes Abraham's rights and secures his place in the land. And that is exactly how the place gets its name, Beer-sheba, which means well of the oath. The 7 lambs he gives are like a public receipt, a witness to everyone that he's telling the truth. It becomes this permanent landmark that stands for peace, for justice, and for Abraham's legitimate presence there, all of it flowing from God's blessing on his life. So you see all of this, the miracle birth, the painful parting, the rescue in the desert, the public treaty, it all comes together and leads Abraham to this incredibly deep moment of worship and a brand new understanding of who God really is. In response to everything he has just walked through, Abraham plants a tree. It's like a living memorial, and he worships. And look at the name he uses for God, El Olam, the everlasting God. He's realized that God isn't just powerful in one big moment. No, he is the God who sees everything from the beginning to the end, the God whose promises hold true across generations, and whose character never, ever changes. So what do we take away from this incredible chapter? Well, first, that God's promises, no matter how long they take or how impossible they seem, will be fulfilled. Second, that our human stories are messy and complicated and often painful, but his plan is still at work through it all. We learn that his care isn't limited. It reaches out to the brokenhearted and the outcast. And finally, that living a life of faithfulness to this everlasting God is what brings true security and real peace. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. When we see God's faithfulness play out so clearly in the lives of Abraham, Sarah, and yes, even Hagar, in their laughter and in their tears, how does that challenge us to look for his hand, the hand of the everlasting God, at work in the small and big details of our own stories?